Thank you. Welcome. I'd like to welcome you to the third annual Norwalk Police Awards ceremony. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize some of the dignitaries with us. Norwalk Mayor Rilling, Police Commissioner Frank Clemens, Police Commissioner Charles Yost, Senator Bob Duff. We also have Chaplain with us, Chaplain Prophet, and also retired officer and Chaplain Giles. Please remain standing for the presentation of the colors.
Uniform personnel, let's hear. What? Uniform personnel, present.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order.
I'd like to invite Reverend Kevin Prophet to do our invocation. Please remain standing.
Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this glorious opportunity that we come together here in City Hall tonight. We thank you for your divine protection over this department that served this community very well. We thank you, God, for the protection of each officer that you provide. We thank you for the protection of each of the chiefs and the lieutenants who lead and direct. Thank you for the vision that you have given our chief of police. We ask that you continue to protect us, continue to provide that divine protection that will keep our officers safe as they keep this community safe. In your son's name we pray this prayer. Amen.
I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for our lost brother, Officer Lieutenant Tim Murphy. Thank you. Please be seated. I'd like to invite the mayor for some remarks.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Reverend clergy, commissioners, chief, deputy chief, uniformed officers, family, and friends. Thank you all for being here this evening. It's great to see so much support for our law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every single day. Before you see 25 or 30 officers who will be recognized tonight for exemplary service during the past year. But out amongst you are other officers who have been here before or who certainly will be here in the future. Because every single day that an officer puts on his or her uniform, they provide a service to our community, to our state, and to our country that people can't even imagine. I think in terms of Officer Roberts, who you read about many times, who saved a woman whose car stalled on the railroad tracks. The only way that officer got recognized was because somebody behind that car had a camera and notified the chief and others about what had happened. The officer just took it in stride. And so many times, everybody here, all these officers here and out in the audience who aren't going to be up on stage tonight, do the same thing. They do so much every day that they don't get recognized for. And we place an awesome responsibility in our police officers. We ask them to make split-second decisions. And when they do, they're criticized and critiqued by people who are called armchair quarterbacks, who sit behind the scenes judging them without having walked one step in their shoes. I'm thinking now in terms of Officer Sean Fenton in Fairfield. He came upon a scene that no police officer would ever want to come upon, would never have to confront. And he was called upon to make a split-second decision to save his life. And already they're starting to second-guess that decision. Again, I would ask those people to spend 10 minutes in Officer Fenton's shoes, or in the shoes of these fine men and women that we see before us. So I want to thank the officers of the Norwalk Police Department. I want to thank the families for sharing your loved ones with us and for living through the fears and challenges that a police officer lives through on a day-to-day basis. Those who are quick to criticize, again, I say, walk one step in the shoes of a law enforcement officer and then see how you feel. Would you be so quick to criticize when you're confronted with some of the things that these officers see routinely on a day-by-day basis? So thank you to our officers. God bless you all. Have each other's back. Come home safely at the end of your tour. Thank you.
Chief Tom Caholik.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Probably the best aspect of being the chief is that in a few minutes I have the privilege of presenting each of you with your awards this evening. It's an honor to publicly recognize you for your outstanding service to the department and the community this past year. I often receive compliments on the quality of service that the department provides to the community. And as the chief, I am fortunate to be the recipient of these compliments. But as I often mention, it is not me who is responsible for the outstanding service. Myself and my deputies recognize that it is each individual officer on the front line or those in a support capacity that make this department what it is. At a meeting last night, I was asked how a new ordinance would impact my workload. I joked and replied that it would have no impact on my workload because I'm not the one who does the work. It is each of you. So on behalf of the deputy chiefs, I want to personally thank each of you for your hard work and dedication, and also thank your families for sharing with us. I know that without the support of your family and close friends, being successful in this career is not possible. I also want to thank Lieutenant Blake, who's up here, who'll be emceeing some of the awards tonight, Lieutenant Lowe and the awards committee, Madeline Randall, the police union, and the PBA for their contributions, which will make this night very special for all of us. Police work is a difficult job, and the tenor of the national media and society as a whole over the last year or two has made it that much more difficult. It is very gratifying to see our officers continue to perform at such a high level, and equally as gratifying to see our community, our Norwalk community, appreciates it and gives us their unwavering support. The partnership is working, and I know the partnership will continue. As you know, law enforcement continues to evolve and change has been more rapid than we have ever seen before. The move from law enforcers to a service-oriented approach to policing has taken center stage, but it's a difficult and a delicate balance, and I am proud to work with professionals that recognize and embrace these changes and are willing to work with me in these very challenging times. Again, I want to congratulate each of you, and I look forward to recognizing each of you on the stage. Thank you.
Lieutenant Terry Blake.
Good evening. Our first recipients for the evening, Detectives Dominic Cicero and Detective Justin Bisegli. During the month of February 2015, Detectives Dominic Cicero and Justin Bisegli investigated several burglaries involving construction vehicles and homes under construction. During this time, they received information from our neighboring Darien Police Department Detective Bureau in reference to two individuals that were suspects into these type of burglaries in the area. The detectives commenced an examination of the backgrounds of the potential suspects. In doing so, the detectives discovered that suspects had pawned a vast amount of construction equipment at a pawn shop in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Further investigation revealed that those items had been stolen from various construction sites and commercial trucks from the Norwalk burglaries. Detectives Cicero and Bisegli recovered over $20,000 worth of construction equipment and applied for and executed 3 arrest warrants for suspects involved in the string of burglaries. These detectives are being recognized for their ingenuity and expertise in investigative techniques for solving crimes in our community. Detective Dominic Cicero, please come forward. Detective Justin Bisegli, please come forward. On February 5th, 2015, at 2:40 in the morning, Norwalk Combined Dispatch received multiple hold-up alarm calls at the Shorehaven Mobile Gas Station located on East Avenue. Within seconds, then Officer Garrett Kruger and Probationary Officer Kelly Hattie arrived on scene and observed a suspect walking away from the gas station. The attendant immediately informed the officers that the person walking away was in fact the robbery suspect and was armed with a handgun. Officers Kruger and Hattie ordered the suspect on the ground, but the suspect refused. The suspect then removed a handgun from his waistband and threw it in a snowbank. The officers then the suspect then engaged the officers in a struggle, whereupon additional units arriving, he was taken into custody. A realistic-looking facsimile firearm was recovered from the snowbank. These officers are being recognized for their restraint, professionalism, and tenacity in confronting a suspect and placing him into custody without escalating the use of force. It should also be noted that Officer Kruger was performing as Officer Hattie's FTO at the time, and Officer Hattie had merely 1 month on the job. Sergeant Kruger, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. Officer Hattie, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. On February 24, 2015, at 12:24 in the afternoon, Officer Neil Robertson was investigating a motor vehicle accident on Cross Street when he observed a vehicle on the railroad tracks on Cross Street near Wilton Avenue. The railroad crossing gates were activated and lowering themselves into a position in which the vehicle was stopped within the area of the closed gates. Officer Robertson realized that the train was approaching from South Norwalk, heading northbound on the tracks. Due to the congestion, Officer Robinson left his patrol vehicle, ran to the scene, and directed surrounding motorists to move up, allowing the SUV to pull off the tracks seconds prior to the train's arrival. The incident was captured on a citizen's cell phone camera and displays the valor and professionalism exhibited by Officer Robertson. Officer Robertson is being recognized for his quick and decisive actions in a moment of extreme pressure. His actions were also recognized by U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, State Senator Bob Duff, and Mayor Harry Rilling. Officer Robertson, please come forward and accept your meritorious commendation certificate. Sure. On the morning of July 5th, 2015, while on patrol with the Marine Division, Officers Michael Silva and Richard Delalo responded to a mayday call of a boat taking on water in the area of the Cockini Reef in Long Island Sound. Upon arriving at the distressed vessel, the officers brought the 2 occupants of the sinking boat aboard. Officer Delalo jumped into the sinking boat with 2 pumps in an effort to prevent the stricken vessel from submerging completely beneath the surface of the water. Officer Silva latched the police boat to the sinking vessel in order to stabilize its position. Other Marine Division vessels from Westport and Darien, as well as the U.S. Coast Guard, arrived on scene shortly thereafter. Thanks to the joint efforts of all responding agencies, the boat was successfully towed to the Cove Marina and extracted from the water. Officer Silva and Delalo are being cited for their quick response, professional assessment of the situation, and timely efforts in assisting the occupants and their vessel. Officer Rich Delalo, please come forward. Accept your meritorious commendation. On September 26, 2015, at approximately 8:09 in the evening, members of the Marine Division responded to a distress call of a sinking vessel with 11 passengers on it in the area of Shea Island. Officers Russell Ouellette, Mark Suda, Vidal Gonez, Richard Delalo responded to the Marine base, boarded Marine 2, and proceeded through rough conditions and high seas to the island. Upon arrival, they discovered a vessel partially sunken in the shallow waters off the beach. The occupants had self-evacuated the boat and made it safely to the island, where by cell phone they called for help. 9 adults and 2 children swam ashore. The officers positioned the marine vessel close to shore as possible and escorted all the individuals to the police boat. With extreme winds and waves of approximately 5 feet in height, the officers took all necessary measures to keep the police vessel afloat. The Norwalk Fire Department responded as well and assisted Marine 2 with getting free from the shallow waters near the shore. All 11 people were transported by Marine 2 back to Vets Park, where they met with Norwalk EMS and were treated for exposure. These officers are being recognized for their quick and timely response, their fortitude in the face of extreme weather conditions, and professionalism in ensuring the safety of all 11 occupants of the sunken vessel. Officer Russell-Lett, come forward for your meritorious commendation certificate. Officer Mark Suda, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. You want to do it? Let's do it. Okay. Officer Vidal Gonez, please come forward. Receive your meritorious commendation. Officer Richard Lalo, come on back up for your commendation certificate. On October 6, 2015, at 3:15 hours, Sergeant Tom Fern was traveling northbound on Route 7 connector when he observed a significant accident occurring on the southbound lane, involving a vehicle that flipped over several times on the highway and then left the highway and went down the embankment. Sergeant Fern immediately called for paramedics, Norwalk Fire, and state police to respond to the scene, while he crossed the median to render assistance. Officers Hector Delgado, John Haggerty, John Zavitz, Gabriel DeMott, and Theodore Garbera also responded and descended the embankment to render emergency aid to the 2 females who were trapped in the vehicle. At this time, the vehicle in question was upside down, wedged between 2 trees, sideways on the embankment. If not all, the vehicle was also bursting into flames at the time. Officers then retreated to their vehicles, retrieved fire extinguishers, scaled back down the embankment to extinguish the fire, while the other officers were able to remove one of the female victims who was bleeding and traumatized. With the help of the arriving fire department personnel, the officers were able to cut the second person out of her seatbelt and extract her body from the wreckage. These officers are being recognized for their heroic efforts in rescuing one of the occupants from the vehicle, which was in a precarious location and working together with other agencies to aid in a situation of extreme peril and urgency. Sergeant Tom Fern, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. Officer Hector Delgado, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. Officer John Zavitz, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. Shocker. Officer Gabriel DeMott, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. Officer T.J. Garbera, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation. On October 17, 2015, at 4:14 in the afternoon, Officers Owen Lee and David Geismar responded to a call of shots fired at the Rudner Court housing complex. The officers quickly determined that the shooting had taken place there, but that no one had been injured. As they checked the area, Officer Geismar observed two males running away from Rudner Court and crossing over the train tracks towards Boughton Street. While in foot pursuit, he immediately gave dispatch a description of the two suspects. Officer Dave Nieves and Daniel Sefcik searched the area of Boughton Street and encountered the two individuals who matched the description. The officers conducted a routine field interview, conducted a pat-down of both individuals, upon when Officer Sefcik discovered a loaded .25 caliber semi-automatic handgun. Both suspects were placed in custody, and the handgun, which had a mutilated serial number, was seized as evidence. These officers are being cited for their prompt response to a dangerous incident, their pursuit of two suspects, one of which was armed, taking them into custody and recovering the weapon while ensuring the safety of all parties involved. Officer Dave Nieves, please come forward. Officer David Geismar, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. On October 19, 2015, the Norwalk Police Department received a call of shots fired near Tucker's Cafe on Main Street. A short time later, Norwalk Hospital contacted Norwalk Police Dispatch, stating a shooting victim had just walked in the emergency room, suffering from a bullet to the abdomen. As the lead investigator, Detective Dan Fitzmaurice, with the assistance of Detectives Justin Bisegli, Dominic Cicero, and Courtney Donner, quickly obtained an arrest warrant for the assailant. The arrest warrant charged the subject with assault in the first degree and several firearms violations. On October 26, 2015, officers Mark Suda and Brian Barrett stopped the vehicle being driven by the suspect on Ann Street. The officers were aware of the existence of the arrest warrant and were familiar with the wanted subject. The officers took the subject into custody without incident and notified the detectives who responded to the scene and conducted a search of the motor vehicle. In a black leather binder in the vehicle, detectives discovered a loaded .357 revolver with 5 rounds in the cylinder. These detectives and officers are being recognized for their dedication, diligence, and swiftness in resolving a case of very serious magnitude and preventing further gun violence within our community. Detective Dominic Cicero, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Detective Justin Bisegli, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Detective Courtney Donner, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Officer Mark Suda, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Officer Brian Barrett, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. On November 1st, 2015 at 9:56 p.m., officers Kyle Lepica and Francois Van Rensburg were performing selective enforcement patrol in the area of South Main Street and Raymond Street. In an effort to disperse a large crowd, Officers Sullivan and Wargo came to their assistance. Encountering one specific unruly individual in the crowd who yelled expletives at them and ran, the officers pursued him on foot to the property of St. Joseph's Church and the side-by-side school, where they observed the suspect place an item in a trash can. The officers were able to catch the suspect and take him into custody a short time later. Officers identified him as an individual with an extensive criminal record, which included narcotics and firearms violations. Upon checking the trash can on the property of the side-by-side school, officers discovered a .22 caliber long barrel revolver. These officers are being recognized for their diligence in patrolling the streets of Norwalk and pursuing felons who are armed with dangerous weapons, capturing them and bringing them to justice. Officer Francois Van Rensburg, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Officer Kyle Lepica, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Officer Thomas Sullivan, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. Officer Paul Wargo, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. On November 4th, 2015, at 1:43 in the afternoon, while on routine patrol, Officer Stephen Jaeger observed a vehicle parked in a handicapped spot in the shopping plaza located at 235 Main Avenue. Upon further investigation, he found a woman slumped over in the passenger side of the vehicle. Officer Jaeger exited his vehicle, knocked on the window of the woman's car, but she did not respond. Officer Jaeger immediately called the situation to headquarters, alerting them they would need an ambulance, and he was going to have to force entry into the vehicle. Officer Jaeger then broke out the woman's vehicle window, opening the door, and rendered medical assistance to the still unresponsive female occupant. A passerby, who identified herself as an EMT, assisted Officer Jaeger in administering oxygen to the female occupant. Norwalk EMS arrived soon thereafter and transported the woman to the hospital. Officer Jaeger is being recognized for his awareness and immediate response to an acute medical emergency which required immediate intervention. Officer Stephen Jaeger, please come forward and receive your meritorious commendation certificate. On the morning of July 17, 2015, Officer Kyle Lepica was assigned to a high-visibility selective enforcement post due to recent shootings in the areas of Ely Avenue and Glasser Street. While in the area of the Rudner Court housing complex, Officer Lepica observed a male known to him as a local gang member. Officer Lepica approached the subject on foot and engaged him in conversation, during which time the suspect became extremely nervous. Officer Pica was aware of the suspect's past criminal history, to include firearms violations. For his own safety, he asked the subject if he could pat him down. When the subject consented, Officer Lepica began his pat down and immediately felt the butt of a handgun in the suspect's pants. The suspect immediately began to resist Officer Lepica's efforts to secure the handgun, and a fight ensued. The officer was able to subdue the suspect, secure the handgun, and place the individual in handcuffs without either party suffering injury. The weapon recovered was a loaded .22 caliber revolver with 2 bullets in the cylinder. Officer Lepica is receiving the Distinguished Service Award for his display of courage, strength, and ability to prevail in a dangerous situation. Officer Lepica, please come forward and receive your Distinguished Award. On August 1st, 2015, at 3:24 a.m., patrol officers were engaged in a motor vehicle pursuit of a car containing 2 men. The car crashed in the area of the Washington Village housing complex, and the 2 occupants crawled out of the wreckage and ran on foot. The pursuing officers chased and caught them after they ran through the courtyard in the Washington Village housing complex. Officer Brennan Collins followed up on this incident by searching in the area and retracing the footsteps of the fleeing suspects. In the light of dawn, a few hours after the incident took place, Officer Collins recovered a .22 caliber semi-automatic handgun from the bushes in the courtyard. DNA search warrants were later obtained for the suspects and the weapon, and a match was discovered. Suspects were later charged with carrying a pistol without a permit, and the suspect was arrested while at the Norwalk Hospital after having been shot by an unknown assailant on October 19th. Officer Collins is being cited for his dedication and understanding of the criminal modus operandi. His efforts in this case went beyond what is usually expected of the duties of a patrol officer. Officer Collins, please come forward and receive your Distinguished Service Award. On August 23, 2015, at 12:40 in the morning, Officer Mark Suda conducted a motor vehicle stop for a motor vehicle violation in the Carlton Court complex. The vehicle was occupied by 2 known local residents with extensive criminal records. Officer Kyle Lepica, Officer Stephen Luciano, and Officer Michael Puglisi provided backup for Officer Suda during the motor vehicle stop. During the course of their stop investigation, a Ziploc bag of marijuana was discovered in the passenger compartment, and upon further inspection of the car, Officer Lepica discovered a loaded .32 caliber semi-automatic handgun wrapped in a T-shirt hidden in the engine compartment. One of the occupants of the vehicle claimed sole ownership and knowledge of the contraband and the illegal handgun. He was arrested without incident, and the handgun was secured for future investigative purposes. These officers are receiving the Distinguished Service Award for their keen observations while patrolling the streets of our community, and for their professionalism and actions for maintaining not only their own safety, but the safety of the potentially violent criminals they encounter while keeping our city safe. Officer Mark Suda, please come forward again to receive your Distinguished Service Award. Officer Kyle Lepica, please come forward again and receive your Distinguished Service Award. Officer Stephen Luciano, please come forward and receive your Service Distinguished Award. Officer Michael Puglisi, please come forward and receive your Distinguished Service Award. On March 3rd, 2015, at 2:45 in the afternoon, Officer Mark Cuckey responded to a report of a large group of juveniles fighting at the intersection of South Main and Grove Streets. Upon arrival, he began to disperse the large group. He also took one juvenile into custody. However, he noticed a young male who was having difficulty breathing and appeared to be suffering an injury to his forehead. Officer Cuckey conducted a further examination of the victim and determined the victim had been stabbed in the torso several times and was bleeding profusely. Officer Cuckey immediately rendered medical aid to the victim until the arrival of Norwalk EMS. Hospital personnel later confirmed the victim may not have survived without receiving immediate medical care from Officer Cuckey. Officer Cuckey is being recognized for his poise under extreme duress and his veteran experience, which not only helped the victim survive, but eventually led to the arrest of the suspects responsible for the crime. Officer Mark Cuckey, please come forward and receive your Medal of Merit. On December 9th, 2015, at 3:47 a.m., Norwalk Combined Dispatch was notified by the Connecticut State Police of a woman that may be attempting to jump off one of the overpasses to I-95 in Norwalk. Officers David Bush and Kimberly Prada responded and began to check the area. Officer Prada immediately located the subject on the Stewart Avenue overpass, and she and Officer Bush began conversing with the distraught 22-year-old woman and eventually convinced her to come off the bridge without harming herself. The young woman was taken by ambulance to Norwalk Hospital, where she received the appropriate treatment. Officers Bush and Prada are being recognized for their quick response and sympathetic approach to this young woman in a successful effort to save her life. Officer Prada, please come forward and receive your Medal of Merit.
I see some of the members from Common Council and City Government, as well as some of the retirees have come to join us and support our officers. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Senator Bob Duff to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, everybody. It is really an honor to be here tonight to help celebrate these really wonderful awards that are so deserving of our police officers in this city. Standing here this evening and shaking everyone's hand as they receive their awards and watching them come up, really the words that I would describe them to the public would be brave and humble. Brave for the work that they've done to receive the award this evening, but humble in the way in which they receive it. Really, many of the officers, the sense that I get when they come up is that this is really just a part of their day, their everyday work that they do. They come to work not thinking that they may have to do some of these brave things that they do, which is just part of their job. But they do it well, they do it bravely, they do it really without asking recognition, and they do it to keep our community safe. And I am so proud to represent the city that has such fine police officers as we do here in Norwalk, Connecticut. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you as a citizen, I thank you as our state senator, and I am so appreciative and thankful and honored to be in your community and to have all of you protecting our city that we have here in Norwalk. Thanks so much.
Lieutenant Blake with the final award, please. I'm sorry. Right. So, we're gonna do it? Okay.
Well, I have the honor and the privilege of presenting the 2015 Officer of the Year Award. This is kind of like the Best Actor, I guess. It's kind of like the Academy Awards. A 22-year veteran of the Norwalk Police Department, Officer Mark Suda has been chosen as Officer of the Year for 2015. Go ahead. I got more to read. Throughout the entirety of his career, Officer Suda has excelled in virtually every aspect of police work, from firearms training to narcotics investigations, Marine Division deployment to emergency services unit tactical operations, and most notably, patrol work. Officer Suda has always been one of the most productive and successful members of our department. His knowledge of the city, its residents, and his ability to collaborate with other agencies has proven to be an invaluable resource to the department. He has also developed a special ability to cultivate confidential informants and the trust of everyday residents of the community to assist the police in solving major crimes. This year, Officer Suda has displayed this professionalism once again by taking into custody several dangerous and armed subjects and spearheading the efforts of the Special Services Division while providing a stellar example that inspires his fellow officers. It's for these reasons and more that Officer Mark Suda has been selected as Officer of the Year for 2015.
It's very hot up here. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, Chief, and Deputy Chief. When I was thinking of a few words to say and who to thank tonight, I decided to Google police officer. The first thing that came up was a man in a blue uniform. It gave a quick definition that a police officer is a warranted law employee of a police force in the U.S. Officer is usually the formal name of the lowest police rank. Median pay, Someone's phone's going on. Median pay annually, median pay hourly, entry-level education, high school diploma, or a GED, and the projected 10-year growth was 5%. I believe that this was a pretty poor analogy and description of a police officer. It pretty much says that police officers are just average. It goes on to display such stories as 2 Mississippi police officers shot and killed, police officer dies in car crash, police officer shot in attempt to apprehend a suspect, police officers have a much bigger domestic abuse rate. I felt very perplexed. No way are police officers just average people. And those stories are not true stories of a police officer. The men and women that I've served with for the last 22 years on this job are some of the finest, honorable, bravest, talented, brilliant, and clever law enforcement personnel. These officers have outstanding police careers and have tremendous police stories. These officers have successfully apprehended hundreds of felony suspects for very serious and violent criminal offenses and executed hundreds of operations that have led to these officers have strategically planned and executed hundreds of operations that have led to numerous arrests of gang members and organized crime suspects. These officers seized hundreds of guns, hundreds of pounds of narcotics, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in assets. These men are true heroes. Tell me what is average about that. Every day we wake up, we get ready for work. We say goodbye to our family and loved ones. We hop in our cars and head off to the police station for our tour of duty. During that ride, in the back of our minds, we know that we might not ever see or return home to our family or loved ones again. Again, I like to say, what is average about that? It has been a tough couple of years in law enforcement. The way the media is quick to judge, twist, and turn the job in which law enforcement does. The media does this for their benefit. They never tell you the true story about who police officers really are. Police officers wear many hats throughout their careers and their lives in our communities. We perform tasks that will never make a front-page headline or a major news story. We are coaches, counselors, teachers, volunteers, mentors, advisors, guardians, helpers, protectors, and good friends. A police officer is tasked with every day to protect and serve their respective community. They answer that call for service, then go out and help a stranger whom they have never met. They listen to their story or problem and then attempt to solve that problem or give the right advice. Again, I say, is this average? With that being said, first and foremost, I would like to thank my immediate family for their continued love and support over the years. To my mother and father, thank you for always being there for me. My father installed a very strong and determined work ethic in me at a very young age. For that, Dad, I thank you. This award is for you. We won this together. See, cops aren't robots. They can tear up. To my wife, Michelle, and my 2 children, Skylar and Madison, thank you for always being there and for your continued love and support in my career. It is not easy to be a wife and the child of a police officer. The long hours, the missed events and holidays, and phone calls in the middle of the night. To my brother Joe and his wife Amy, and to my in-laws Harry and Tu, who are always being very supportive. Thank you to all my extended family who is also in attendance tonight. I would like to give special thanks to 2 men, retired Norwalk Sergeant Russell Chuck Fallow and retired Stanford Sergeant Peter Despagna. These 2 men are the reason I decided to become a police officer. I would also like to thank the many officers that I've looked up to, learned from, and shared many laughs and practical jokes with while being assigned to the Special Services Unit over the years. Retired Lieutenant Mike King, retired Lieutenant Tim Murphy, retired detectives Mike Murray, Mark Edwards, and Dan Oswaldo, retired Officer Paul Larson, current officers Lieutenants Bill Lowe, Mark Lepore, and Terry Blake, Sergeants Frank Rita, Dave Orr, Pete White, and Jason Scanlon, Detective Dom Cicero, and Officers Ron Spagnola and Tony DePanfos. And last but not least, my partner of 6.5 years, Sergeant Sal Calise. When Sal got promoted, it felt like I got divorced. The only good thing was I didn't have to pay him alimony. I would also like to thank the many law enforcement personnel that I work with on a daily basis from our area outside agencies. Many of these members are in attendance tonight. They are from the following departments and agencies: the Greenwich Police Detective Bureau, the Stanford Police Narcotics Unit, the Darien Police Detective Bureau, Westport Police Detective Bureau, Wilton Police Detective Bureau, Bridgeport Police Detective Bureau, Fairfield Police Department, the DEA, the Norwalk State's Attorney's Office, Stanford State's Attorney's Office, and the Norwalk Adult Probation. If I miss somebody, I'm very sorry. I would also like to thank my current Special Services team that consists of Lieutenant Jim Walsh, Sergeant Kevin Markert, and Officer Steve Luciano, Kyle Lopica, Max Sixto, Brian Barrett, Julio Rodriguez, Steve Kauf, Mike Puglisi, Owen Lee, and Dave Geisberg. This team of officers is truly one of the best assembled group of guys that I have ever been assigned to with the Special Services Unit at one time. We truly are a team. So when I win this award, we all win this award. I would like to thank two men that have been very supportive over the years, not only to me and my career, but to the entire police department. These two gentlemen go above and beyond to help and support our department in many different fashions. They are true friends to the Norwalk Police Department. Mr. Anthony Conti and Mr. Bill Landon. I'm almost done. There's one more person I would like to thank for being here to support me. My little second grade buddy from Marvin School, my mentee, Yancey Braxton. Thanks for always putting a smile on my face, buddy. I would like to thank you one more time for this very honorable and prestigious award. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
In the night of recognition, can I have a round of applause for our very distinguished honor guard? And how about another hand for our newly minted Norwalk Police Emerald Society pipe band? Would you please stand for a benediction?
Let us pray. And now may the peace of God go with you all forever and ever. May his security be your safety, and his wisdom be your guide. His name be forever praised. Amen.
Please remain standing for the retiring of the colors. Once again, thank you for coming out and supporting our officers. I'd like to thank the public, the family members, and the men and women of the police department for doing such a great job. Keep it up and be safe. Good night.